So you want to be rich and you think you shouldn't start a business. Let me tell you one thing, if you actually want to get rich and you're not just some wannabe entrepreneur who loves the idea of getting rich, of being a millionaire, but who's not willing to put in the work day after day, if you're willing to work hard and to make all of the necessary sacrifices to actually become successful, and if you think that you don't need to start a business to be able to achieve this kind of transformation, let me tell you one thing, you're fooling yourself. So in this video, I'm going to explain in detail exactly why you need to start a business, preferably an online-based business if you actually want to get rich. Now, if you actually want to be a millionaire, you need a serious plan, because it's not like you're going to wake up one day and boom, you're going to have $1 million waiting for you on your doorstep. Life doesn't work that way. Success takes a lot of time, work, and of perseverance. A study by Tom Corley found that 20% of all millionaires made their first million in their mid to late 30s, and that despite having a middle-class income. So the way that they accumulated their wealth, it was by being frugal and saving and investing at least 20% of their annual income. Now, another 28% of people who became millionaires, they engaged in high-risk, high-reward pursuits. For instance, they chose to become professional athletes, musicians, some of them became celebrities, entrepreneurs, actors. Most don't make it, but those who do, let me tell you, they hit it big. Now, more than 30% of people who actually became millionaires did it by climbing the corporate ladder slowly over the years. They made their way into what we call the C-suite. They became a CEO, a CFO, a COO, etc. So technically speaking, as you can see, you don't need to start a business if you want to make millions of dollars and to get rich. So now you may be confused and you might even ask, why are you telling us that we should start a business if we want to get rich, if you can indeed get rich without starting a business? You see, you need to ask yourself one very fundamental question. When do you want to make millions? Because everybody wants to make millions, but nobody is asking themselves when. The average millionaire is 57 years old, but being rich when you're young, it's much better than being rich when you're old. Now, of course, it's impressive to be rich, to be a millionaire at literally any age. If somebody is 60 years old, they have the big house, the nice car, most people, they would look at that person and think that person is a massive success. But now imagine if they see somebody who is a millionaire at simply 30 years old, or even at 25, or you know what, let's be crazy, 20 years old. What are most people going to think? They're honestly not going to believe that this person is self-made, but most millionaires are in fact self-made. Now let me ask you a question. Do you seriously think that the people who made millions in their 20s, in their 30s, they did it by saving and investing 20% of their income for decades? Obviously not. Do you think they really got to where they are because they saved their money? Obviously not. And do you also think that they were slowly climbing the corporate ladder year after year? No. And do you seriously think that all of the millionaires in their 20s or 30s, they're all musicians, athletes, actors? The truth is that no, most of them would be business owners. I'm going to tell you a quick story about how I started my first business and why I wanted to start a business and to get rich. Because everyone is thinking about the things, the shiny things, like having a mansion, having a supercar, flexing a crazy lifestyle on social media to make everyone else jealous, but that was never the reason that I wanted to become rich and to start my own business. I saw my own father completely depressed, getting crushed by his job every single day. He was forced to get up and to go work that job, and that drained the life out of him. He even got stuck in the alcohol addiction at some point. I also saw my mother killing herself literally during 12-hour night shifts at the hospital as a nursing assistant. Every time at dinner, my parents would literally complain about the price of a salad, about the price of a piece of fruit, about the price of meat. I grew up in a small town, and most of the people there were drug dealers, criminals, or old people or people without ambitions. But nobody from that small town was actually making something out of their lives. And when I was in school, the teachers never said that you could start a business, as if, you know, it wasn't even an option. So they were forcing me, forcing us, forcing you to sit in a classroom for 7, 8, sometimes even 10 hours straight to just learn a bunch of stuff that you're not even going to use in your life. And then you get out of school, you've got your high school diploma, you've got to go to some university, and you know nothing about life. And according to Forbes, around 60% of adults, they graduate from college and then they can't even find a job in their lane of work. This means that only 40% of people are actually going to get a job in their lane of work. But even then, out of those 40% of people, how many are actually going to get the job that they wanted to begin with, but also how many are actually going to make 6 or even 7 figures a year? 99.9% of them, they'll never even make 6 figures a year, let alone 7. And I just saw most people around me hating their jobs, like being miserable, not even being able to relax on the weekend because they are worried about, oh my god, I need to go back to my job on Monday. And when you love your job, you're not thinking about those things. But honestly, do most people love their jobs? Absolutely not. They just do it to pay the bills because they absolutely simply need to. And then you need to ask somebody for permission to take a vacation. And so that's the dream that they sell you. Study hard all of your life, then get into a good university and get massively in debt to pay for a good enough degree to maybe get a job. But 6 out of 10 people won't even be able to get a job, even though they're massively in debt. And then you're going to get 2 weeks of vacations per year. You'll have to slowly climb the corporate ladder if you even want to get a chance at becoming wealthy. And even then, it's not even guaranteed that you will ever make it. You'd have to work slave-like hours for decades on end, and you will be far from living the influencer lifestyle or the type of lifestyle that you see on Instagram, believe me. And let's talk about increases in salary and in wages. You might get a small increase in your salary over the years if you do a good job, but it's not like 1 month to the next you're going to 10x or 20x your income. This is only possible with a business. Like, just imagine you work hard all year, you only have 2 weeks of vacation, and then you get a raise. Wow, you're super excited. I mean, you deserved it, you worked really hard. But guess what? Now you're just making $80 extra per month. Wow, such an incredible raise. It's truly going to change your life. I personally derive my fulfillment from setting goals and crushing them. And from seeing that day after day, I get closer to making my dreams a reality. And what I love about business, it's the freedom that it gives you. The fact that you can have exponential rewards. There's no ceiling. You know that bullshit quote, the sky's the limit? In business, there are no limits. Because it's not even like you're trying to run a marathon. Despite what some people might say, not everyone can run a marathon. Some people just don't have the genetics for it. However, in business, it's true that while not everybody is going to have a genius IQ, you don't need a genius IQ to make $1 million a year. Let me tell you that. Because I can guarantee you one thing, some of those influencers you see online, they're not smarter than you, they're not more talented, they're not working harder than you, yet they're making 10 or even 20 times more money than you are. And the only reason that's possible is because they are working in a better opportunity than you are. You're using a better vehicle to generate money. Because think about it, you could be working as a doctor for 12 hours a day, and in the eyes of most people, you're going to make a nice salary as a doctor. But how many years of your life would you have to give up to studying in university? And how much money and resources would you need to allocate to even make that possible in the first place? Now, I'm not saying that having a business is made for everybody, because the truth be told is that it's very hard. Some people, they just can't discipline themselves. Some people need some other person to tell them what to do, to give them a schedule to follow, and that's completely fine. Not everybody can be a successful entrepreneur or a successful business owner, because we need doctors, we need nurses, we need all of those people to make society function as a whole. But I'm making this video, and all of the videos on my channel are made for one reason. It's made to help the people who are meant to be entrepreneurs to become the best possible entrepreneurs they can be. So now that you realize that you need to start a business if you actually want to get rich, you need to be very careful. And if you don't understand what I'm about to say, I can guarantee that your business is going to fail. You need to understand that not every business is created equal. Would you agree with me if I say that opening up a restaurant, it's a business? And would you also agree with me if I say that being a TikTok influencer and selling some products, some merch, you do some coaching, it is also a business? Right, those two things are businesses. However, which one do you think has the most amount of potential? I hope you didn't say the restaurant. I mean, think about this. We are living in crazy times. If you want to get rich, it's better to be a TikTok influencer as opposed to opening up a restaurant. Literally. Because think about this. How much money would you need to come up with to open up a restaurant? Probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for most people, how would they acquire that money, that startup capital? They would need to take a loan from the bank. But nowadays, with the rise of social media and with influencers, we see more and more people starting big companies without ever needing to raise money from investors. And let me tell you why that is the key to extreme wealth. Investors are going to take a cut of your profit. They will have a say in how you run your company, and it might prevent you from doing the necessary things to take your business to the next level. But when you don't need to fund your company with the investors' money, if you have sole ownership of the company, you're the only owner, you get to run your company however you want. You're not leg shackled. You can make the right decisions without anyone else's input. And let me ask you one thing. Why do you think a guy like Alex Hormozi, who was spending so much money on ads, literally millions of dollars on paid ads, is now making videos on how to get to 10K per month as a student? Do you think it's because he wants to attract students, to sell something to students? No, he only works with advanced entrepreneurs. So why would he make a video targeting students then? It makes no sense. The only reason he's doing this, and you see him everywhere on social media as well as other influencers, and the only reason why I'm putting out so much content, it's to attract a lot of viewers, a lot of attention. Back then, to promote a business, people would have those giant signs out in the street, or they would just go out and give people some flyers. But nowadays, the most effective way to acquire new customers is through social media. And that's exactly why most people who start a business are broke and will stay broke, because they simply don't know how to generate enough attention. Now, something else that you really need to do before you start any kind of business is that you need to analyze every online business model very carefully. You know how there's this 80-20 80-20 principle that applies to literally anything in life, the same is true in business. Just because it's an online business, it doesn't mean you should start it or that it's a good idea. Not every business model is equal, just remember that. Because just like we've seen it with the brick and mortar business versus the online business, like if you wanted to scale a restaurant, like every table is full, it's a massive success, but then you want to expand the business, what can you do? Your only real option is to open up a new location, a new restaurant. So to serve more customers, you'll have to spend a lot more money. So there is always a lot of risk involved in that kind of opportunity. Because for all you know, you could open up a restaurant in the wrong location and lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, if we stick with the example of the TikTok influencer, let's say they sell some merch or they do some kind of coaching and that's how they make money. If they wanted to get more customers, would they need to spend a lot more money? Not necessarily, you see. They might upgrade the quality of their videos on TikTok, and so they might spend a bit more money on the equipment, on the microphone, on the editing. But if they wanted to serve 1 million customers, it's not like they would have to spend 1 million more times the money. And that is why with online businesses, you can experience such rapid and exponential growth. And also because you can reach anyone anywhere in the world. If you've got a 5-star restaurant in London, obviously because of the reputation of the restaurant, you're naturally going to attract so many customers and make so much money. But somebody who is in New York currently, they can't eat in your restaurant because it's in London. And don't forget that recently we had the lockdowns all over the world. So even if you were, let's say, in London, you could not go and eat in that restaurant. And that's why during the lockdowns with the recent pandemic, we have seen every single online business grow to crazy levels. And more people got started and realized that having an online business, it's the craziest opportunity of the decade or of the century. Now, to pick a business model, you need to follow one rule. You should pick the business model that has the lowest risk for the highest possible return on investment. You want to be smart about how you approach business. You want to think like a CEO, like an investor. What's the best option for you? What's the option that makes the most sense? And I'm not saying that you should pick something based on what you love, based on your passion. You should look at the data and make decisions based on that. I've seen so many people, they want to start a business based on their passion, but then they don't end up making any money because they simply focus on what they want as opposed to focusing on what their customers want. And believe it or not, but in business, that's the only thing that matters. You'll never sell something to someone if they don't care about what you're selling. Plain and simple. To give you an example, if you want to sell merch, unless you're like a popular influencer, you're Mr. Beast or something, most people, they're not going to care about your merch at the beginning. Now, if you have a very original and unique kind of clothing line, it's a different story. But even then, influencer marketing is probably one of the best ways to promote it. So if you really want to figure out what's the best online business to start for a beginner, like I said, you need to analyze every popular business model in great detail. But luckily for you, I've done all of the work. I've made a free video in which I'm going to analyze every popular online business model. We're going to take a look at the pros, at the cons, and I'm also going to share with you the 3-step process that you can start using literally today to get your first customers. If you're interested, you want to know more about it, the link is in the description below. Now I just want to quickly bust down a couple myths. A lot of people say, oh, I can't start a business because I don't have enough time in my day. I go to university, I have a full-time job, I work out, I do this and I do that, I just don't have time. Let me tell you one thing, you don't need to be putting in 10, 12-hour workdays every day to become successful, because there's plenty of people from all over the world. They work insanely hard, 10, 12-hour days, yet they never even come close to making 6 figures a year. And studies have actually shown that people on an average 8-hour workday, they only work for 3 to 4 hours. The rest of the time, they're doing some kind of shallow work which does not actually move the needle forward in their business or work. So if you can just block out 2 to 4 hours a day, you've got plenty of time to do what you need to do to become successful. Now, obviously, I'm not going to lie to you. The more time, the more money, the more resources you can allocate to building your business, to growing your business, the better it's going to be, obviously. But if you don't have that much time, don't let it stop you. Because at the end of the day, if you really want something, you need to be stronger than your excuses. We all have our own problems. Somebody might have more time than you, but they will have less money. And then you need to understand one thing. If you're the type of person watching 10,000 different videos on how to start a business, how to make money online, and you've been doing it for a year or a few months, but you never actually started a business, what are you doing? The hard times are here. With all the crises around the world, all the wars around the world, with inflation literally skyrocketing, what are you waiting for to get started? Year after year, it's getting harder. You know why? Because more and more people realize that online business is the craziest opportunity. And so more and more people are getting started because they want to get out of this rat race. You know, when I became serious about improving myself, about fitness and about business, I really just sat down and wrote down exactly how horrible my life was going to be if I just kept procrastinating living and indulging in so much instant gratification as opposed to doing the work. And you know what's the scary thing that I realized? I realized just how close my nightmare scenario was to my actual life. And for a lot of you, if you do this exercise, you might realize that you're closer to living that horrible life than you think. So if you don't actually put in the work, if you don't do something right now to change it, honestly, another guy is going to start and he'll beat you. He'll take the money, the success, the fame, the women, if that's what you want, that could have been yours. But at the end of the day, you'll be the only one to blame.